Good morning students. Back to chapter 2 structure of atom. Today we are going to the last part of the topic, that is stability of completely and half filled orbitals. Almost we have covered the entire part of the chapter. So whatever was remaining, I am going to just complete it in this session. So moving to the topic, stability of completely and half filled subshells. What happens to the completely filled subshells and half filled subshells? How they will become stabilized? There are two ways by which you can stabilize your completely and half filled subshells. It is by symmetrical distribution of electrons and by exchange energy. So how can you stabilize half filled and completely filled subshells? By means of symmetrical distribution of electrons, one way, and second way is by means of exchange energy. What is symmetrical distribution of electrons? We need to understand that more the symmetry, more the stability. So when symmetry is more, then stability is also more. Say for example, electrons are present in same shell. They will be having equal energy, but when you see the spatial distribution, it is different. So electrons present in the same shell will be having equal energy, but when we see the spatial distribution, it is different. Why? Because shielding of electrons with one another will be decreased when electrons are attracted towards the nucleus. So what happens when electrons attracted, because nucleus is positively charged, a nucleus is having your protons and neutrons. So when electrons are attracted towards the nucleus, then what happens? Shielding of electrons with one another will be less when electrons are attracted by the nucleus. I will be explaining what is the shielding and degeneracy when we come to the last part of the thing. So what is the first part? When the symmetry is more, stability is also more. So electrons present in the same shell, their energy is same, but they are different in spatial distribution, and shielding of one another will be less if electrons are attracted towards nucleus. And what is exchange energy? See, when stabilizing effect arises, when I have two or more electrons which are having same spin, either they will be rotating it in the positive direction or in the anti-clockwise direction. So when two or more electrons are in the same spin, then stabilizing effect arises. Okay. Now what happens? Two or more electrons having a same spin, then degeneracy is present by the orbitals of the subshell. So what I want to infer is, when will the stabilizing effect arises? When two or more electrons are having a same spin, then degeneracy is present in the orbitals of the subshells. Now, when electrons are exchanging their position, when they are going to exchange their position from ground state to excited state, then they will be releasing energy. This energy is called as exchange energy. So, what is exchange energy? When electrons are going to exchange their position, they will be releasing energy. That energy is called as exchange energy. Okay. Now, if the number of exchanges is more, when the number of exchanges will be maximum? When half filled and completely filled subshells are filled. Okay. So when the number of exchanges will be more, when half filled or completely filled subshells are filled, then the number of exchanges is more. Done. So exchange energy is more, then stability is also more. This is the reason why completely and half filled subshells are stable. Okay. So the first point is symmetrical distribution of electrons. If the electrons are arranged symmetrical, then they are stable. If the exchange energy is more, they are stable. What is exchange energy? When the electrons are going to exchange their position, they release energy, which is called as exchange energy. When exchange energy is more, then obviously stability is also more. Okay. Now, see, and I am going to say a particular orbital as stable when the shielding is less and there is small Coulombic repulsion. See, when I am going to say a particular orbital is stable, when its shielding is less, it should be having small shielding and its repulsion should be more. Okay. See, when exchange energy is more, then the Coulombic repulsion is also more. If this is more, then what happens to the stability? Orbital is said to be stable. Now, when you see the shape of 2s and 2p, they are different. I have already discussed about the s orbital shape. It is symmetrically spherical. What is the shape of d? D will be dumbbell shape, and even D is also dumbbell shape. So this shape of s orbital and p orbital is different, but an electron which is present in s and p orbital, they have same energy. Although the shape is different, the energy possessed by the electron is same. Clear? So what is the inference? When the shielding effect is less, when the Coulombic repulsion is more, because when exchange energy is more, then Coulombic repulsion is also more. In that case, an orbital is said to be stable. The shape of 2s and 2p orbital is different, but still an electron which is present in s orbital and p orbital will be possessing same energy. So orbitals with the same energy is said to be degenerate orbitals. So what is degeneracy? Orbitals which are having same energy is said to be degeneracy. Say for example, 1s orbital of hydrogen atom is said to be stable. Okay, because we know the atomic number of hydrogen atom, atomic number H. For hydrogen it is 1. So it should be in 1s orbital. It is in a stable condition. Means what? It should be present in the ground state. Okay. Now see the shape of 2s and 2p orbital. When I say the shape of 2s and 2p orbital, the shape is different from 1s and it is not in stable position. I am going to call that as an excited position. It has moved to a high energy state. What is that state called? That state is called as high energy state. Okay, clear? So under the stability of half filled and completely filled orbitals, there are two aspects. Number 1 is symmetrical distribution of electrons and number 2 is exchange energy done. This is some introduction about your stability and what is exchange energy and what happens when an electron is present in s and p orbital. Shape of s and p orbital is completely different, but an electron present in s and p orbital will be having same energy. So I am going to call that as with a particular term called degeneracy. So what is degeneracy, children? Orbitals having same energy is said to be degeneracy. Okay. And your 1s orbital is said to be in ground state, so it is in stable condition, while s and p, that is 2s and 2p, it is said to be in excited state. Why? Because it is moved from the ground state level to a higher energy state, that is called as excited state. Okay. Now, when I was explaining about the shielding effect and the exchange energy, I told I will be giving some more points here. So, I am going to tell you some more points regarding your shielding effect. Okay, now let me see the shielding effect. See, presence of electrons in the inner shell. Okay, due to the presence of electrons in inner shell, the outer shell electrons will not experience full positive charge of the nucleus. Am I correct? See, what I want to tell you is, in inner cells, electrons are present. Okay, just a second, children. Yeah. See, electrons present in the inner cell is going to reduce the electrons present in the outer shell. Means, the inner cell electrons are reducing the exposure of outer shell electrons to the positive charge of the nucleus. Okay, it is like 2 rounds. Okay, who is standing in the first round? The first round is stood by inner shell electrons, and who is standing in the outer shell? Electrons are present in the outer shell. So because of the presence of electrons in the inner shell, your outer shell electrons are experiencing less positive charge from the nucleus. This is called as shielding. Am I correct? See, I have 2 rows of children. First row, some electrons are present. Second row, some more electrons are present. Now the electron which is close to the nucleus, since they are standing in the first row, they are reducing the exposure of the second row to the nucleus. So the second row is experiencing less positive charge from the nucleus. This is the concept. Done. Now the same point, shielding of outer shell electrons from the nucleus by inner shell of electrons, and the net positive charge which is present in the outer shell of electrons is called as effective nuclear charge. Okay. Now what is the definition for effective nuclear charge? Shielding of outer shell electrons from the nucleus by inner cell electrons, and the net positive charge which is possessed by the outer electrons is called as effective nuclear charge. Clear to you? So this is called as shielding effect. What is shielding effect? Presence of inner cell electron reducing the exposure of outer shell electrons to the nucleus or to the net positive charge is called a shielding effect. Now, the energy of interaction between the nucleus and the electron is less when atomic number is less. So, what I am telling, your interaction between your nucleus and the electron present, this energy of interaction, this energy is called as orbital energy. What is orbital energy? Energy of interaction between your nucleus and the electron is called as orbital energy. This orbital energy is less. When it is less? When atomic number is more. Okay. So, your orbital energy is less if atomic number is more, because as atomic number is more, the electrons are moving far apart. We are going to fill them from each energy level. As a result, their energy of interaction will be less when atomic number increases. Say for example, this is nucleus and this is s orbital, p orbital, d orbital and f orbital. It goes like that. Your p orbital is attracted towards nucleus, or it is bonded towards nucleus more than the p orbital. Correct? No, because s is very close to the nucleus. Similarly, your p orbital is attracted, or it is attracted towards nucleus more compared to d orbital. Yes. And d orbital is bonded to nucleus more than f orbital. So as atomic number increases, we keep filling the electrons. It goes like this. So your orbital energy is less. Okay. Now, what is electronic configuration? What is electronic configuration? Distribution of electrons into the orbitals of an atom is called as electronic configuration. See, I am going to distribute the electrons into various orbitals of an atom. This is called as electronic configuration. How will I represent electronic configuration? There are two ways. I can literally write like 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 like that, or I can write in this way. See children, see this is s orbital, because s is only one, right? 1s, 2s. There is no any subshell. So s orbital is indicated with one box. And what is p orbital, children? P orbital has three subshells, like px, py and pz. So it is indicated by three subdivision. And what about d orbital? D is having 5, like x square minus y square minus z square minus x square and z square x minus y. So we have 5 subdivision, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So D is having 5, P is having 3, S is having 1. What is the atomic number of hydrogen? It is 1. So I have indicated in S orbital only 1. Finish, no doubt. Now what happens to helium? Helium's atomic number is 2. I have represented one with the upward arrow and another with the downward arrow. Why? Because I am going to indicate them with the opposite spin. As per our Pauli's exclusion principle, no two electrons should have same quantum numbers. If they are present in same orbital too, they should be having opposite spins. So this should be having a positive spin and the other should be having a negative spin. Okay children, so positive spin and a negative spin. This is for hydrogen, only one electron I have indicated, and for helium I have indicated atomic number 2, and lithium is having the atomic number 3. The maximum number of electrons which your S can hold is only 2, right? So I have filled 2 in S orbital, and for remaining I have moved to the next orbital, that is P. In P I have put 1. So 3 is completed. So in this way we are supposed to fill the electrons in different orbitals. And what is your electronic configuration? Electronic configuration is nothing but distribution of electrons in orbitals of an atom is called as electronic distribution. How will you distribute electrons in various shells and subshells? For this we need to know the maximum number of electrons which an orbital can accommodate. S can accommodate 2, P can accommodate 6, D can accommodate 2 and F can accommodate 14. We will be seeing the remaining now. Yes children? Okay children, we have seen the electronic configuration, like how to distribute the electrons in hydrogen, in helium, then the third one is lithium. Lithium's atomic number is 3. So I have taken first 1s orbital, 1, 2. In 2s orbital I have filled one more, right? So how is the order? 1s, 2s, 2p. I think I will be sending a scanned notes for what is the order of filling the electrons in different orbitals and how to remember them easily. I think in the previous session I have explained how to remember them. So 1s orbital can accommodate 2 electrons. Since lithium's atomic number is 3, I have filled 2 electrons in 1s orbital. So what is the second level? It is 2s. So I have moved here and I have put one more here. So done. 3 atomic number is done. What is the fourth element? It is beryllium. Beryllium's atomic number is 4. So how much your 1s can accommodate? 2. I have filled it. How much your 2s can accommodate? 2. So I have filled that 2. Done. Now coming to boron. What is the boron's atomic number? Boron's atomic number is 5. So 1s, 2s completed. I have moved to 2p. So in 2p we have 3, right? Because x, y and z subshell, and p can accommodate how many electrons? 6 electrons it can accommodate. And what about your D, children? D will be accommodating 10, and what about F? F will be accommodating 14. So now moving to carbon. Carbon's atomic number is 6. So how will I represent? 2 in 2s, I mean 1s. 1s, 2 electron, 2s, 2 electron, 2p, 2 electron, 2, 4, 6, done. Nitrogen is 7. So 2, 4, 5, 6 and 7, done. Oxygen is 8. In 1s, 2 electron, in 2s, 2 electron. In p orbital, since it can accommodate 6 electrons, I have just put 2, 3, 4. Children, why? You know, this is also as per our Hund's rule, because we have seen rules for filling the orbitals. In this, we have seen at least each subshell should have a single electron each. That's the reason why we are filling X, Y, Z, and then we are coming back, because we are making sure that each subshell is having at least one electron pair. Then we are coming to fill them with, right? Okay. Now what is for neon? See, a neon's atomic number is 9. So how I have filled? 2 in 1s orbital, 2 in 2s orbital, 2, 4, 6 in p. So 9 is done. Children, no need to write every time the number of electrons. See, because when you see from lithium this 1s is same, right, no children? And from beryllium this 2s is same. So instead of writing every time, from boron onwards you can write this as lithium and then you can continue. So after lithium after neon you can write the entire configuration as neon, then start your configuration like that. That's for simplicity, but when you are comfortable with this own procedure, then no problem. Children, before that, see, from sodium to argon, like how I have filled here, 1s, 2s and 2p, how I have filled. In the same way you are supposed to fill from sodium to argon using 3s and 3p. How I used 2s and 2p, the same way you are going to use 3s and 3p. Clear to you? From lithium to neon, I used 2s and 2p. In the same way you use 3s and 3p for sodium to argon, done. Then from strontium to zinc, we will be filling 3d orbitals. Then from gallium to krypton, we will be filling 4p orbitals. From rubidium to xenon, we will be filling 5s, 4d and 5p, which is exactly similar to 4s, 3d and 4p. Then from cesium to beryllium, I will be adding with 6s. From lanthanum and mercury, from lanthanum to mercury, I will be filling with 4f and 5d. Okay, this is just for your I am just highlighting how to fill all the orbitals, because there are more than 112 elements which I will not be able to work out each. So this will be a hint like from where to where element, because once the allowed number of electrons is filled in one orbital, obviously we will be moving to the next level. Now what is the exceptional cases that I will be telling you. And before moving to exceptional cases, let me highlight on octet configuration. I think you might have studied this in 9th standard. Children, octet configuration is nothing but 8 configuration. Those elements whose configuration became 8, they are said to be stable. They are said to be noble gases, because they are not going to react. They are called as inert elements or noble gases. Why the name? They are themselves filled, we say some children are born with talent, right? It is in that case, these noble gases like what is that, neon, argon, krypton, xenon. Okay, these elements, they are themselves by nature, they have attained stable configuration on their own. When we see the configuration, it is said to be 8, so I am going to call that as octet configuration. Why they won't react? See, when a child will be like more bubbling, when he'll be more troubling others, when a child is hungry or when a child needs attention, when he is sleepy, there should be a need, only then he is out of control. Similarly, when any element is deficient in electron, or when any element is it is having more excess or deficient, then in order to satisfy themselves, in order to achieve stable configuration, they will be reacting with other elements. But when we see the noble gases, they are already satisfied with 8 number of electrons, so for them no need to react. So they are unreactive, they are said to be inert, they won't react with any other elements. Okay, done. Now let me highlight on the exceptional cases. See, chromium, copper, molybdenum, rubidium, gold and silver, these are said to be exceptional cases because they won't follow the protocol which I told you. I told you 1s and 2s, the number of maximum number of electrons I have told you. They won't follow this. Why? Because in chromium and copper, when you see, instead of moving to 4 and 9 configuration, they will be moving to 5 and 10 electron configuration. See, for example, copper, it is going to adapt D5 and D10 configuration. Why is the special case? Why they are not following this? This is because when they attain this particular configuration, that is going to infer them extra stability. That is the reason why they are moving out of the rule, right? I have told you rules for filling the rule like Abba rule, Hans rule and Paulus exclusion rule. Almost all the elements will be following that rule. Once we fill one particular orbital with the maximum number of electrons, then only my objective is to move to the other. But before that, I have already told you that if there is a competition between 3d and 4s in where you are supposed to fill the electrons, that also we have seen before. But I have just cited few examples for exceptional cases. Say for example chromium, can you see? Yeah, see, chromium is 24. How I have filled the configuration? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. Can you see? Yeah, you can see 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 3d5, 4s1. This is how. And when you see copper, how the atomic number of copper is 29. How to fill them? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 3d10, then it is moving to 4s1. So it has attained 3d configuration here. Okay, it has attained 3d10 configuration, and when you see chromium, it has attained d4 configuration. Right, it has attained to d4 configuration because this is because of this extra. Why they have attained this special configuration, only then they will be having extra stability for them. Okay, yeah. Next, moving to the last topic, that is nodes. What are nodes, children? I think before coming to nodes, I have explained about your Schrodinger's wave equation, where I was explaining about the psi. What is psi? Psi is nothing but probability of finding the electron. Okay, psi is nothing but probability of finding the electron. The probability of finding the electron should be maximum. The region where the probability of finding the electron should be maximum. Children, what is nodes? What are nodes? Nodes is nothing but region in the orbital where the probability of finding the electron is 0. So what I can tell you, children, your node is otherwise nothing but opposite of psi, because psi is a region where the probability of finding the electron is maximum, and node is a region in the orbital where the probability of finding the electron is 0. Okay. And what is the formula to calculate total number of nodes? Total number of nodes is equal to n minus 1, which is nothing but the sum of angular nodes. This and all is not required. This is you will be studying more about this in your higher classes. So you need to know what is nodal region. Nodal region is the region where the probability of finding the electron will be 0. And what is the formula to calculate the nodes, where n is equal to small n minus 1. This in turn is the sum of n minus L minus 1, where n is a principal quantum number and L is nothing but your azimuthal quantum number or angular quantum number. And electrons which are present in completely filled orbital is called as core electron. When it is completely filled, then that electrons are called as core electrons. Say for example, neon is a core electron. Neon is a core electron. Why, children? Because 1s2 completely filled, 2s2 completely filled, 2p6 completely filled. So neon's configuration is said to be this is a stable configuration, and these electrons are called as core electrons. So electrons present in completely filled orbital is called as core electrons. And electrons which are added to the shell with the highest n value are called as valence electrons. So what are valence electron? So from neon you can number the remaining number of elements is called as valence electron, because here the electrons are added to the shell with the highest n value. Done. And what are isoelectronic species, children? Isoelectronic species are species having same number of electrons This is isoelectronic species. And children, before winding up the session, in the live session, one of you have asked doubt regarding your addition and subtraction in significant figures from chapter 1. So let me clarify that using one or two examples. Yes, children? Yeah. Yeah, children, this was a doubt raised during the live session. So I am just clarifying from chapter 1. This is significant figures regarding addition. Children, I have three numbers here, 12.11, 18.0, 1.012. So I have got the answer as 31.122. How to round off this value? Just check all the three reactants, like all the three numbers which is to be added, check. And which number is having least number of decimals. Say for example, 18.0 is having, after point you have only one digit. So I am supposed to round to this value. So what is my answer, children? 31.122. I am supposed to round off like this. That is 31.1 is the answer, because I have taken the number which is having very less number of decimals. Okay. Now see, this is a multiplication problem where 2.5 into 1.25, I have got the answer as 3.125. See, we have two numbers here. No, this is after point I have two decimals here, and after point I have one decimal here. So I am supposed to round off in this way. This number will be round off as 3.1. This is the answer. This is how. So for addition, subtraction and for division, you need to follow the same way. The number having less number of decimals, less like after decimal, very less number of digits should be followed for the rounding off. Now, consider a case where I want to remove the rightmost digit and that is greater than 5. Okay. My objective is, this is a number I am supposed to round off, 1.386. I want to remove the rightmost digit. Which is the rightmost digit here? 6 is the rightmost digit here. So, what about the 6? 6 is greater than 5 only. No, correct. So, rightmost digit has to be removed and that should be greater than 5. Then the value round off should be increased by 1. Okay, clear? Then what is the rule? If the rightmost digit is to be removed and if it is greater than 5, then increase the value by 1. So I am going to remove this 6. 6 is the rightmost digit and it is greater than 5. So if I remove this, then the preceding number 8 should be increased by 1. So I have round off to 1.39. Clear? Now moving to the second case. Here also the rightmost digit is to be removed, but here it is less than 5. The rightmost digit to be removed is less than 5. In that case there is no change. Say for example, 4.334, I want, which is the rightmost digit here? 4. 4 is the rightmost digit. So how will I remove this 4? This 4 is less than 5. So if I remove this 4, there is no change in the round off value. It is taken as 4.33. So second case is also clear. Okay. Now, if the rightmost digit is 5, what will we do? I have told you, if the rightmost digit is greater than 5, then the round off value should be increased by 1. The preceding value should be increased by 1. And if the rightmost digit to be removed is less than 5, then there is no change. That also I told you. Now, if the rightmost digit is 5, if the rightmost digit is 5, and if it is even number, if the preceding number is even, then there is no change. Shall I tell you an example? See, 6.35 is the number, which is the rightmost digit. Rightmost digit is 5. It is neither greater than 5 nor less than 5, right? It is 5. So what is the case? I am telling you the case if it is 5. And what is the preceding number, children? The preceding number is odd here, right? If the preceding number is odd here, if it is odd, then you should increase the round off value by 1. So how I have round off? See, I have removed 5. The preceding number is an odd number. So I have increased its value to 1. So 6.3 became 6.4. Clear? Now last case. Now the rightmost number to be removed is 5. And the preceding number is even, then what will you do? No change. See, for example, the rightmost digit to be removed is 5 and the preceding number is an even number, then there is no change. So I have written 6.2 as 6.2. Clear to you? Shall I tell you? For addition, subtraction, division and multiplication, you just check for a number which is having a less number of decimal. That is, after your point they should have a minimum number 1 or 2, then round off accordingly. Clear? Then if I want to round off a value such that I am going to remove the rightmost digit. If the rightmost digit is greater than 5, then the round off value, the preceding number should be increased by 1. In 1.386, 6 has to be removed, so the preceding number 8 is increased by 1, that is 1.39. Clear? If the rightmost digit to be removed is less than 5, then there is no change. Done. Then if you want me to run the example, it is 4.334. This is the rightmost digit to be removed. It is less than 5, that is 4. So I didn't do any change. I have just written like that only, 4.33. If the rightmost digit to be removed is 5 and if the preceding number is even, then there is no change. 6.25, 5 has to be removed. I have written 6.2 as such. Now, if the rightmost digit to be removed is 5 and if the preceding number is even, no change. If the preceding number is odd, then increase it by 1. Say for example 6.35. The rightmost digit to be removed is 5 and the preceding number is an odd number. So I have increased it to 1, that is 6.4. I have increased it. Okay children. So chapter 2, it is clear. And along with the notes, I will be sending you even the scanned notes for some of the numericals. That is, if the value of principal quantum number is given to you, you have to calculate the value of azimuthal quantum number and magnetic quantum number. And say for example, I will be telling 3D. You have to tell me what is the value. N is equal to 3, what is the value of D? Okay, like that, very simple problems in that. And just go through the scanned notes and let me know if at all if you have any doubts. I will see it in the live session. Thank you children.